Well, welcome back, everybody. We've been on a slight hiatus for a couple of months, getting moved into these wonderful new digs I think we have here at the state AFL-CIO. We're hoping to do some pretty good things out of this over the next few months, especially with the kind of season that we're getting into. And we plan to have topical podcasts coming on issues that concern working families, and then later down the line when we get some candidates that we're supporting, we may bring them in to let them know how you can help their campaign or what they're running about. So we're really looking forward to this. We had 3 previous podcasts that are still up, but this is a new one from our new digs, and we're happy to be here. So with that, I'd like to introduce my first guest of our new revamped podcast, Forrest Bennett. He's the new president of the Oklahoma State AFL-CIO. Has been since last November, and this has been his first efforts as I don't want to call him an outsider to the state capitol, but it's definitely a different thing for him to adjust to, but he's doing a great job that I can see, and I wanted to get him on here first just to talk about how he's feeling the first few months of his leadership, and then had to get into a couple of issues along the way. So welcome, Forrest.
Thank you. How long can I refer to myself as the new state president? What's the fashionable amount of time?
Probably when you get reelected.
That's your first term, or yeah.
No, I think after this first run in the legislature, I think that'll probably be.
That's fair. It's been a gauntlet.
Trial by fire.
I feel like I've watched the president of the United States, kind of pick and choose. It's not really linear. It's just when things are not going his way, he blames the previous administration. But when things are going his way, it's his economy. So yeah. I'll see if I can try that out. But I don't want to. Jimmy Curry was the president for 28 years, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. So I don't want to blame him for the previous administration. But it has been a whirlwind. I think I'm 5 months and some change into the new job. And, we're almost to the end of the first legislative session that I haven't been a legislator in for nearly a decade. And that's been an adjustment for sure. But we are happy that you all, that we're able to have a close working relationship with the CLC, the Central Labor Federation. If you don't know what that means, the AFL-CIO at the national level has 50 state fed affiliates representing 50 states, and then in every state there are things called CLCs, which stands for Central Labor Councils. Central Labor Councils operate in a more regional way, and Tim O'Connor here has been the union boss, thug, mafia man, for, what'd you say, 150 years since you've been president?
As long as President Curry was.
Yeah.
now a little bit longer since he's retired.
Did you just did you just want to go as long as you could so that you could say you were president longer than Jimmy Curry?
That really wasn't in the plan. It's just kind of the way it worked out.
Just a bonus?
Yeah. I think I had to run prior to him running when he ran in '98. The guy that was president at the time resigned because he was with the local IBW that represented the Lucent workers at the power plant, or at the plant there at Western Electric or Lucent, whatever they want to call it. And anyway, he resigned when they started to shut down that facility, so he just took his buyout and left.
Oh, wow.
And so I guess it was like a natural thing to step up and take his spot. It seemed like the treasurer of the council always seemed to get talked into it, put into that. But
trapped in it.
Been a great experience, and I hope when I leave, I can say that I left it better than I found it. I think that's pretty good.
If I know my history, Central Oklahoma Labor Federation did not have a podcast when you started.
No.
Part of that is probably because podcast didn't exist, but that's detailed from that.
Yeah. So tell me, Forrest just got his first speaking engagement at our banquet last Thursday, and I've been telling everybody he's a good draw. We actually sold that banquet out, and I think everybody was anticipating your speech at that banquet. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a lot of fun, and I was quite honored to give that speech. I had been going, and I said this in the speech here, but I've been going to those banquets for over a decade, and one of the things that bummed me out about leaving the legislature was that I noticed that, legislators who were turning out would get awards or get to come and speak. And I was like, I guess I'm never going to get to do it. But then, lo and behold, you asked me to be the keynoter this first time out, and it was really great because during the campaign, I didn't really get a chance to speak at length about the way I feel about the labor movement and why I was attracted to this job. And so, that and the culmination of everything that's happening in this country right now with such a sort of unmasked antipathy toward unions from the national level all the way down to the state, and a lot of cities in Oklahoma as well. It was an opportunity for me to explain why I chose to be in this position. Because I think it has surprised a lot of people that I was willing to leave the legislature early. And if you told me this 5 years ago, that this is where I'd be, I would not have believed you. But I'm not unhappy about it. I mean, this opportunity came up just at the right moment for me, at a time when I was reaching the peak of my frustration with legislature, and frankly, with all due respect, people on both sides of the aisle who just could not figure out how to prioritize the issues that matter to unions. And the argument that I made at the Labor and Friends banquet was that the issues we fight for are the issues that I believe everyone should prioritize, which is, economic security for people, that it is the best vehicle out of a bad situation. And whether you're a conservative Republican, who doesn't want to fund welfare programs, or you are a progressive Democrat, who cares primarily about marginalized communities, the solution to the policy problems that both of those kinds of politicians will find is in the issues that unions fight for, which is, good wages, worker protections, the ability to enjoy the time that you've earned off by doing the way that you do, and just generally reshaping the conversation about the value of labor. We today have gotten into this habit where we measure someone's importance by what kind of work they do, instead of thinking about us all as human beings who are choosing to spend our time working for someone else's benefit. And if you think about it in those terms, that we're all just human beings that have to do work and choose to do work, whether that is at McDonald's or at a financial, investment firm, that you're doing a service and deserve to be compensated well for your labor. So, I could have talked for another 15 minutes at that banquet, but it was just a really nice opportunity for me to share a little bit of who I am without the pressure that came with knowing that I was in the campaign and that they were hearing from me and hearing from other people and weighing their decision. This was more just all right, the dust is settled. Here we are. What's the state of the labor movement now, and where are we going? And so, all that to say, I appreciate the opportunity you gave me to do that.
Well, I'd seen a lot of your floor speeches on it, and I knew what you were capable of. So I was glad that you made that presentation at the banquet the way you did, because it kind of took me back to some of your floor speeches on issues that I cared about. And I think I would send you a text.
Yeah,
when I'd see those things, and really it was a great draw for the banquet. I mean, we had never had a situation where we had to tell people we didn't have seats.
I'm very proud of that.
And so you were our first sellout.
Not
in a good sense.
I keep bragging to my wife about that.
Yeah, so
You're going to tell the guy who sold out the labor proof blanket that he has to do the dishes? Are you kidding me?
so
And then I do the dishes.
yeah, so that kind of leads to one of the issues I kind of wanted to get addressed today is there's some things that are going to be that the legislature is trying to put on the ballot that were already voted on in state questions, and I thought you might want to address what's going on that end.
It's pretty fascinating, considering we are the labor movement and still dealing with the consequences of the passage of the right to work back in 2001, 25 years ago, right? Because I heard from my colleagues in the legislature all the time, the people spoke on this issue. They voted for this. And they would say that to justify, not revisiting issues that had been addressed a decade ago, or 25 years ago. And here they are now trying to repeal what the people did just 3 or 4 years ago with the expansion of Medicaid. That is one of the state questions that they are trying to force onto the ballot. And this originated out of comments by the governor in his final State of the State address this January or February. And man, what a legacy it will be if the guy who served as governor for 8 years had a wish of his legacy being to remove healthcare access for thousands of Oklahomans. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me from the standpoint of anybody who has a personal faith or has any sort of modicum of compassion. We're just looking at that issue all along. Anyway, so that is one of the state questions, is to remove, and this is it's tricky. They're saying that they want to put on the ballot a question that removes Medicaid expansion from the Constitution and moves it into statute. You will hear politicians, if this gets on the ballot, you will hear politicians say, this is not a state question to defund Medicaid. Absolutely it is. Step one is removing it from the Constitution, because right now, since it's embedded in our Constitution, politicians can't touch it. If they move it into statute, it's much easier to play with the language, and they can essentially gut it. They can take the teeth out of it. And there's been so much pushback that, in fact, they changed the language to keep some protections in place for lower-income Oklahomans. But giving legislators the benefit of the doubt, there are a lot of folks up there who are comfortable enough financially that they don't understand how hard it is for people to make ends meet, and they don't appreciate that $50,000, $60,000 just isn't quite cutting it anymore. And for policymakers, I understand this sort of cat and mouse game of, well, prices are going up, income has to go up. Not that income has gone up. But policymakers at the state level, I think, are really hoping that someone at the federal level will do something about the rising costs. I don't believe, this is the cynicist in me, but I don't think that that's going to happen. You see this with the announced refunds for the tariffs, which is a whiplash situation in its own, because we heard from the president over and over again, tariffs are being paid by the other countries. Well, now there's a refund program for U.S. companies, which is an admission that the tariffs were paid for by us, but it wasn't paid for by the companies. They passed that cost on to us, privatize the cost, socialize the profits. That's how the American capitalist system works. So that's one of the state questions that they're trying to remove. I went on a bunch of different tangents, but that'll go. They want on the August ballot. The other thing that they want to have on the August ballot is reform to the Judicial Nominating Commission. Right now, the way that judicial nominating works is that the governor is given a list of candidates that he or she can choose from. We're hoping it's a she. That's an unofficial comment because we have not yet had our Coke convention. And for people only listening in the audio medium, Tim and I just did this one. Right now, you have to meet certain qualifications to get on that list of potential candidates. And what a few folks have been trying to do over the last several years is gut the JNC and make it easier for unqualified candidates to make it onto that list. And it's been fought by folks who are experts in sort of legal matters. And we have this war on intellect in this country, and certainly in this state right now, where people say, well, just because the experts say it should be this way, why should it be? Because they're experts. That's why. Why would you want a boss, somebody in the management class to run a union? They don't understand protecting workers. Why would you want someone who doesn't appreciate and value the judicial system in the way that it is supposed to be designed to serve as a check and a balance on the other branches of government, instead of somebody that's going to rubber stamp policies that the executive or the legislative branch pushes? And we're seeing the consequences of that with a Supreme Court that has been sort of captured by the far right, to the degree that organizations like ours don't even want to challenge things in court because we know that the other side has so much money that they're willing to throw money at appeals until it makes it all the way to the Supreme Court with the hope that it will allow them to further gut worker protection. So the JNC question is not great. Neither is the Medicaid expansion question. And they're intentionally putting them on the ballot in August because that is a low turnout election, and they know there are going to be a lot of runoffs in Republican primaries, which means far right voters are going to come out, and they anticipate that will help them pass.
So for me on that question, it's about priorities.
Absolutely.
I mean, they passed major tax cuts for corporations, oil and gas, all that stuff. They threw working class people a bone, with a little refund, but now they're having to pay for some of that tariff price increases in gas prices with the war stuff. But they'll bend over backwards to put money in their pocket. But then when you talk about something like Medicaid expansion, all of a sudden that's too expensive.
Right.
And we can't afford it. That just irritates me to no end that that's a priority that they have.
That is, you hit the nail on the head about that.
And so, the other thing, the other state question that's coming along, and it'll actually be sooner, it'll be in June 16th, and the first primary is the state question to raise the wage. Now, if you've seen some of the anti-832 commercials on that, they don't even mention about it raising the wage. They talk about stuff that it could do, as far as raising prices and layoff stuff. But whenever I hear that stuff, I almost want to demand from them, show me some data on that where any of that's true. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it. But you want to talk about that state question a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I've also seen the anti-ads, and as we record this on Thursday the 23rd, the Raise the Wage folks have finally put out their first ad in support of it. And I haven't watched it yet, but I'm glad to see that there's a response out there. If you feel like you've been hearing about this state question for a long time, it's because the voters signed an initiative petition 2 years ago to get this on the ballot, and the governor used his immense power to kick it as far down the road as he possibly could, and then put it on a primary ballot instead of a general election ballot in hopes that too would affect turnout. I mean, it is all a game to these folks who do not want to see the people succeed on their own, and they've reached a fever pitch because whether it was Medicaid expansion, the legalization of marijuana, a couple of other state questions that came to be because of the initial petition process, instead of realizing that the people were sort of flexing this muscle of going around the legislature and saying, you know what, we should probably be more responsive to the people, they are making it harder for us to do that. They gutted the initiative petition process, making it much harder for people to get this thing signed. So this is going to be probably one of the last people-led initiative petition state questions that we'll see in a while, barring success in changing tactics in a way that we gather signatures. Anyway, raising the minimum wage in Oklahoma, this question is very reasonable in that it does it in a stair-step way over 3 years. And the folks that are in support of this make no bones about the fact that there are a lot of companies that are already paying over $15 an hour. This isn't going to affect a lot of company management folks who would need to figure out how to make finances work. But for those that it will affect, again, prices are going up and wages are not. Arguments against this include, well, this is going to increase costs. Costs are increasing without the wages going up. Well, this is going to cost jobs. The same folks that are fighting this are the ones that will welcome AI and replace human workers with that AI. So forgive me if I feel that the concerns being pushed by the anti-raise the wage folks are a little disingenuous. They just don't want to fork out the money. And finally, and most importantly, to me, I fundamentally believe that if you are a business owner who has a business that relies on you paying your labor sub-minimum wages, there is a problem with your business model, not with policy. And the reality is that there are a lot of folks out there that are generating incredible wealth for the management class and not enjoying enough of the fruits of their own labor. They are working overtime. They are dealing with wage theft. They are being misclassified. There are a myriad of ways that business owners can skirt the rules and, manipulate the system such that they maximize their profits and the workers don't get as much. This is a modest proposal to level the playing field just a little bit. And so I'm supportive of it. A lot of the folks in the labor movement, virtually all of us are supportive of it, and I look forward to engaging.
And it's got support from the national AFL-CIO along with the state AFL-CIO to vote yes on that A32. And the thing about it for me is that once it gets to that maximum $15 an hour, I think there's a cost of living allowance for future raises in that, because if you look at minimum wage over the decades that we've had it, it's never had a cost of living increase. And so therefore, the longer we've had minimum wage or raises in there, the less it's kept up with inflation, or that can actually help people. So I'm kind of happy about that part of it as well. So
me too. And it's, as a former politician, I got to say, I think more of my former colleagues should be supportive of this, because it takes the pressure off of politicians to raise wages by making it automatic. And it's hard to argue against raising wages in line with the cost of goods. And yet, there's another aspect of this, that there are a lot of politicians in Oklahoma, on the right, who have relationships at the federal level, who could be using their bully pulpits to argue for lowering the cost of life for people. And we at the state legislature in Oklahoma don't have a whole lot of power over controlling the price of goods and services. We do have the ability to raise the wage so that we can meet that moment. But there are states where they do have more power. California has a lot of tech companies that have stayed there. They can make state laws that impact those businesses. New York is another state that's like that. Illinois. But at the federal level, they can do things to push back against raising costs. The tariffs that the business owners took on and passed the costs on to the consumers for, they raised the price of their goods. I would bet you the farm right now that you're not going to see the cost of those goods go down, because just like the pandemic, when supply chain issues happened and folks were able to raise the prices of their goods, when the crisis was over, we did not see a lot of those goods and services going down in price, because they saw that, okay, people are absorbing this cost, we can continue to do it. Capitalism has become a race to see how much businesses can nickel and dime the everyday person, and not who can compete to provide the best services at the most competitive price. And so this, again, is just one small way to push back on the way that the economy is going and say, look, things need to work for the everyday person for once.
I would hate especially at the national level, but particularly on the state by state level, if I had to brag about a $7.25 minimum wage, as an opportunity for business to come in, that's just shameful in my mind. But,
well, you and I have compassion.
So we're just about to the end of our podcast here. You got anything you want to add?
Per usual, as a recovering politician, I could talk another hour.
Well, our plan is to have you back periodically. This isn't the only time you'll be on.
We are in the AFL-CIO's
right
state fed office in an old conference room that was underutilized when I moved in. So we moved the conference table out, and it just so happened you all had been invited to leave your previous podcast location, and so this just worked out really serendipitously as far as I'm concerned. But we're looking forward to trying to make the labor movement a little bit more accessible, especially for younger folks. And if you're a labor curious person listening to this podcast, please reach out to us and see how you can get plugged into the labor movement. The other thing that I said at the Labor and Friends banquet was I wanted to speak to the friends, the folks that are not rank and file union members, but consider themselves allies of the labor movement. There are more ways to engage with us, and we will not achieve the things that we need to achieve without those friends. And so, if you're labor curious, meaning you want to know a little bit more about organized labor, you might be interested in trying to form a union where you work, please let us know. It has to be organic. It has to come from you. But we have a lot of tools that can help people. And, a lot of folks are question what the value of the union is in a state like Oklahoma where we have right to work. First of all, our ultimate goal is to repeal that. And we have a lot of work to do, and it'll take years. But the other thing is that I joined the union because it meant to me that I was sort of putting my money where my mouth was and investing in something that I believe can be a vehicle for change. It wasn't because, I was getting a lot of pressure from the people that I worked with to join the union that they were in. There are unique aspects to being in the right to work state. One being that we have to make a cogent argument for people who are not in unions yet. And so that's going to be our focus. Isabella, my political director, and I have talked a lot about this. Who is our audience? We've got the general public, we've got our members, and we've got legislators. That's kind of the audience options for the state fed. And we feel right now that our number one audience needs to be our membership that may feel a little bit of malaise right now around politics because for so long it has just so evidently not worked for the everyday person. And we want to show people that by engaging in the process, not just campaigns, but also in the election or in the legislative process, they can create change. But two, we want to welcome the public in. And until they're all union members, we want them to be friends of labor. So I look forward to coming back here and giving you all updates about that. And in the meantime, really excited about the renewed partnership that the State Federation and the Central Oklahoma Federation have.
Well, we look forward to working with you guys out here at State Fed. But we're already working on some coalition stuff, around State Question 832 and then our upcoming political season. So I appreciate the ability to be able to work with you on issues that and whatever we can do at the Labor Council to support the thought we want to do that. So I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. You took time to do this morning. We had planned 2 or 3 other opportunities to do this, and our schedule just didn't mix. So I'm glad we were able to do that today.
Me too. Glad that we were able to do it in a leisurely, pace instead of trying to squeeze it in.
Yeah. So let me just tell you, next week, or we're doing another podcast next week with the State Question 832 folks. So you'll want to pay attention to that when we get that posted up. It'll hopefully give you some good information on the state question that we're fixing to vote on here in a month? 50 something days. So, we'll have them here, and then, like I said in the beginning, we'll try to, do some topical, podcasts in the future to kind of inform you about things that, affect workers or the labor movement in general, and then, hopefully give you guys some good information and want you all to join in on the fight that we're in to, make things better for working folks in Oklahoma. So, appreciate you taking the time to come in.
Thanks, man.
If you're listening, if you're listening and not watching, that was a hand slap and a bro shake, I think.
You use the technical terms. And if Tim ever comments on your Facebook or any social media with the phrase "keep fighting," one thing I learned at last year's Weather Friends Banquet is that he says that when he believes that somebody's on the right track and doing good work. And so now, anytime I hear him say "keep fighting," to me, it's a badge of honor. So live your life in the hopes that you get to hear Tim O'Connor say to you, "Keep fighting."
Keep fighting, bro.
Hell yeah, man.
I appreciate you. We will see you on our next podcast, and I appreciate you. Hashtag OKCOLF. It'll be on places where you can get your podcasts. It'll also be on, we'll do a video with the YouTube, connection, and that'll be on some of our other social media like TikTok and Instagram. Anyway, appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.